It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
This is the Cosmick Voice. Cosmick Voice. Music, talk, and nothing but business with your hosts, Chris Natalini and Mick Michaels. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cosmick Voice. This is Season 6, Episode 4. I am here with my co-host, Chris Natalini.
Hey, what's going on? Glad to be here.
And I am Mick Michaels. Welcome back, everyone, to another show. Chris, my brother, how are you, sir?
What is going on, Mr. Michaels? How are you, sir?
I am good. We are into November, Season 6, Episode 4 already. This is amazing. Didn't we just start this?
Really? And this is scary, man. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day. This is a scary thing. Like, time's flying by, man. It's crazy.
Time is flying. It's amazing. They do say, and I think we talked about this before, scientifically they say that the Earth is spinning slightly faster. I mean, by milliseconds, I guess, but time is speeding up. But then again, the argument is nothing stays on a spinning ball. So that's all lies and spinning and gravity and the moon and flat Earth and everything else. The music business, it's all fake. All of it. Every single bit of it's fake.
It is, man. Time is flying by, bro. It's so crazy to me how fast things are going.
Yeah, I mean, before you know it, we're going to be into the silly season. I mean, to me, my head, it's still summer. It was still summer just like yesterday. And now we're into November and it's, Hallmark's already in full bloom and Christmas is here. And
you think about it, like early October, it was like 80 degrees. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. It's just the way it is. We have to live with it until we're dead. So that's what they say. I guess that's why the old people say, live when you can because it goes so fast. Yeah, sure. And now I'm over there saying, you know what? Maybe they were right. It's really going fast. Fast.
It really is.
I can't keep up. Honestly, can't keep up with it. Like, I definitely can't run that fast. So it's brushing by me, kind of like the Flash. I got to do that pose, you know what I mean? I know you guys can't see it, but I'm doing that. If you've seen the new Flash,
man.
You do that.
That running man pose.
That running man pose. So I haven't finished the movie yet. I piecemeal movies because I get all excited. I crank it on. And I get 15 minutes and I fall asleep. And that's it. So, I literally takes me 2 weeks to watch a 2.5 hour movie at, small, whatever. It's terrible, man. And I try. I really do. I go in with again, best intentions. Like I was watching a movie the other night with my daughter. She had come down to visit us. We're at that age where my daughter will come down and visit. I'm not in a home yet, but I guess it's the same thing. So we wanted to watch the new Disney Haunted Mansion thing, and I go, yeah, let's watch it. She goes, Dad, you're going to be out in the first 15 minutes. I says, no, I'm not. I go, I just drank a bunch of soda. I'm ready to do this. Well, unbeknownst to her, I actually did fall asleep about 20 minutes in. My wife was nudging me, so every time she looked back, and then at one point she did catch me, but it was like later on in the movie, and then I said, okay, I'm going to stay up for the rest of it. So I made it through, kind of seen the beginning, missed most of the middle, and then I caught the ending. So that's just my life. All that money on streaming services, all that money on streaming services, yet I still never go back.
Fair, though. You are up early, and you do work, and your brain is constantly active. So, by the time you sit down and relax, you're exhausted.
Well, yeah, that we can sell it that way, but when, I get it. You're right. Maybe. But It does aggravate me too. It's like, man, I can't believe I fell asleep. I don't understand. Even movies that I really want to see, I just can't seem to make it through. But speaking of which, it just seems like we're going through a pocket of streaming that, like, there's a lot of good movies on there. Like, at one point, like, earlier in the year and even last year, they had all these things that I wasn't interested. Like, I mean, like who? I don't even understand. And then, but lately, there's been a lot of decent movies that have been popping up, and I'm like, oh, I put that in my queue, and I don't know when I'm ever going to see them, but hopefully they stay in my queue for a while. But I don't know, it goes through that. But what difference does it make? It's November now, well, December. No, right. I'm going to be spending most of my time with Hallmark, so
yeah.
So it'll be.
I was going to say, you're watching the Hallmark channel soon.
I know. So these are movies for 2024. Crazy stuff.
These are movies you can watch during your Christmas vacation.
Right. Exactly. It's nuts. What do you got going on, man? Anything exciting going on?
No, dude. Nope. Dead. In the past couple episodes, I hate to keep repeating myself, but this is where we're at in the recording process, man. That's it, dude. Just looking for 2 releases in 2024, man. Super excited.
That's awesome. Well, listen, anybody that's been through the recording process, especially you're working on full albums, right?
Full albums.
Yeah.
Yep,
listen, that takes a lot of time. Your one band has 4 people, the other band has 5 people. It takes time.
It does take a lot of time, and with one band, like, a lot of the songs are new. We get in the studio and we're like, oh, maybe we could change this and tweak this, and we're able to do some things, just kind of maybe sharpen up songs a little bit. It's a long process, but, we want it done right, and we talk through a lot of things, change some things, and you know how it is, man. You're doing a song one way live, and then, especially if it's a newer song, then you get in the studio, and you have to really kind of be on point. Where live, maybe you can, not skip anything, but maybe you can make it a little easier, maybe you can run some words together, and we're in the studio, you're like, oh, we need to kind of separate things and make sure I'm on the beat. And it's a long process, man. It's a long process.
Yeah, there definitely is the focus on detail when you're in the studio, because whatever you do, that becomes permanent. And like you said, with live, you can be a little loosey-goosey some nights. You can change up depending on the mood of the crowd or where you're at or how you're feeling. That's that organic evolution of the song. But when you record it, that's it. It's done. It's not like you can go back every week and go, wow, here's a new recording of it.
That's it.
Here's a new recording. Yeah. So I totally get it. Like I said in the previous episodes, we've been in and out of the studio as well, trying to finish up our EP and some new projects for 2024 and wrapping up the rest of this year with some holiday releases later this month. And so it's, I get it, man. I get it. It's ongoing. If it's part of your plan, it's long term. It's a long-term thing.
Yeah, for sure, man. Yep, for sure.
Well, good luck to you on that. It's a lot of work, but at the end, man, you're like, this is awesome. Man. You're always happy about you made that run and you did it, and now you have something to show for it. That's the beauty of recording. Yeah.
That is correct. And I'm not, let me tell you, let me be honest. I am not a studio guy at all. I'm not one of those artists that like being in the studio. I like the creating part of it. I like the, it's just a lot of work. It's a lot of stress. Everybody's stressed out. It's not one of my favorite things, but of course, the final product is the best part about it. It's work, man. But as I get older, I try to appreciate it just a little bit more. Try to have a good time and kind of, lower my shoulders a little bit and just dig in and try to have a good time with it.
Oh, I get it. I was the opposite. I always enjoyed the studio. I loved working in it and being part of that whole process. And years ago, didn't really care much for live. Like, I just struggled with the live. And we've talked about that in previous seasons. Over the years, I've gotten more and more into playing live, enjoying the aspects, enjoying the moment by moment. But I love the studio even more now, especially since the digital age has come in and I've gotten a better grasp of it, and I created my own studio, so I can do a lot of work there, which saves me time, saves me energy, and it is a stress-free environment. I mean, you came into the studio. It's not a huge studio. It's pretty bare bones, and I like that. Less is more to me. It's a relaxed atmosphere because you worked in it, and there's no stress.
Yeah, for sure.
because I remember all the time hearing, you're wasting tape,
Nope.
you're wasting tape. We can only use it so many times. And like now, I still say it because it's kind of like ingrained in me. But you could delete 1,000,000 times and nothing gets less. It's not like you're, To me, it's a much even more relaxed environment, especially doing it your way. Like you were saying, sometimes you're writing a song, you're starting to play it live, you've been demoing it, and then when all those final elements start coming in, you've laid the bass and you got the drums in, and now the singer's starting to lay, main vocals, backing vocals, all that kind of stuff, and something starts to change. You go, you know what? Never heard it that way. I think we need to do it this way, or let's just, and sometimes it's small tweaks, tweaks.
Yep.
So but like you said, that final product you're always pretty darn excited about. You're like, yeah, here it is. Which goes in hand in our last episode talking about artwork.
Yep, for sure.
You know what I mean? That's like the icing on the cake.
Yeah, it does, yeah. Yep, definitely.
It's Russ the Boss.
Take it down.
This is Stephen Pearson from Rat, the Rat Bastard. You're listening to the Cosmick Voice.
All right, man. So let's get into the topic of tonight's show. And that is crafting the perfect set list. Crafting the perfect set list. The songs that grab the audience. So what do you think, buddy? What's your model? What's your technique for crafting the perfect set list?
Well, here we go, Mick. Here is the first Kiss reference of this episode.
Nice.
You start out with Detroit Rock City, and you end with Rock and Roll Night. I mean, you have to have those two bookends, right? You have to have a strong song to start and a strong song to finish. And it's funny because there is a show on SiriusXM called Busted Open, and the wrestler that's on the show, Bully Ray, he's a huge Kiss fan. And any wrestling thing he talks about, he always puts it in terms of rock and roll, because it's the same, basically, virtually, it's the same thing, right? It's all entertainment. Everything he talks about always revolves either around Kiss or Motley Crue, because there is two bands. And he always says, a wrestling match should be you start off with Detroit Rock City and you end with Rock and Roll Night. So his theory, at least in wrestling way, he believes that the last thing people remember is the end of the match, which really makes sense, because you don't really, if it's not like a high spot fest where people are doing crazy things, if it's just like a legit pro wrestling match, you're always going to remember who wins in the end, right? I mean, that's the key. So that's his theory, and it kind of makes sense to me, because every Kiss show, you always remember the end, right? The confetti, the fire, the songs, the whole thing, right? So that's kind of been my motto, has always been following Kiss's direction. You start off with Detroit Rock City, and you end with Rock and Roll Night. Now, I will say, as I've gotten older, I've realized that there are things in between those two songs, those bookends, that take precedence. Are we, is the guitar player changing guitars? At least in my band Seeds of Perdition, some of our songs are using 8-string, some of our songs are using 6-string. So what we like to do is we try to clump all the 6-string songs together and some of the 8-string songs together. That way we're not going back and forth. There are songs that don't work live that maybe worked on record. It dips out, you lose, especially if you're doing a long set. And you could really attest this, because you guys have done super long sets. In my former band, we were always contracted to play about an hour and 10 minutes. And I always said you could always tell in the middle of the set where you start to lose people. And that's just anybody. I think with, you just lose them, right? Like they just kind of get lost in their own thoughts, or they just kind of drift off, right? So in a shorter set, and I will speak as in a shorter set, I think we just try to, as I've gotten older, like I said, we craft our set list in terms of who's using what, who needs what. Does your singer need a break? In Seed of Perdition, I'm lucky enough to, my guitar player sings a song. So we try to throw that in the set list because it kind of gives me a little bit of a break. Not that I need the break, but the break is nice to have on top of it being a great song, and it really works live. But it's always good for me to have a little bit of a break. So I don't mind the break, especially the kind of vocals I do for Seeds. And we just try to pick the strongest songs. What works, man? What works live? What sounds great? What we also think about, what bands are we playing with? Are we going to go with a lighter set if we're playing with lighter bands? If we're playing with all death metal grindcore bands, we're going to pick our fastest stuff. If we're playing with lighter metal bands, we try to accommodate, that crowd too. It really varies more now than it ever has. Like I said, back in the day, it was real easy. You go, oh yeah, we're playing this song, because these songs are awesome. But as I've gotten older, I've realized that actually picking a set list is really super important. It's really not just throwing songs on a set list. It's really super important. It means more than I think some people, really think about. Unless you're one of those legend bands, your Kisses, your Poison, your Motley Crue, your Bon Jovis, that you need those. They want to play those hits. But indie artists like us, those set lists are strongly important. And I'm not saying some of the bigger bands don't. Metallica's big on. Lars has been. He said many times before he's big on set lists, and this run of this tour, they're that they play 2 nights at a venue, they're not playing the same set twice. Which is kind of interesting considering. They could really play a whole set of their hits and roll out, and they choose to kind of play different stuff and some B-sides and some, stuff maybe you're not used to hearing from Metallica. So it's interesting how everybody kind of constructs their set list, but I have realized that it is more important now as an indie artist than, being in a bigger band like, those legendary or nationals.
I agree. I think that set list is very important. It's a vital piece of the band's live, their sound, their style, their approach. I also think that you have to think through it. You have to be aware. Now, listen, I've been at fault years and years ago. I mean, really, we didn't think about set lists in the same way. There was definitely something about the impact of the first song and the impact of the last song. I got that. But a lot of it was just like, hey, we're going to just play the songs that we play. Like, like if you had 10 songs, that was the songs you played.
Right.
Right. Sometimes you didn't have the luxury of having a huge catalog of stuff. It just didn't. It's right. You were just playing these songs. As a point of reference, I do remember in the 80s when we had decided to write a little bit more commercial-friendly type music, we were putting them earlier in the set to keep the audience, and then we went with the heavier stuff later on. In the 90s, with the progressive metal stuff, it was just basically we played whatever songs were, we felt wherever. With this band, I've crafted it a little bit differently, where there was a couple of years we were experimenting with songs. We were like, okay, let's do this, let's try this, and we were getting the feedback, and there were songs that we played for a couple of years and then we took out of the set because either they weren't having the same effect anymore, or they didn't fit in with the newer songs that we were putting in. Listen, sometimes it's tough to let go, especially like I was talking to you before we went on air. We have something that we call like the tried and true set. Like if we're not sure what to do or what we're going to encounter, we just say, hey, listen, we're going to do the tried and true set. We know it works from top to bottom. Right. But that took a while to get to, and even with that tried and true, it's like you have to make room for other songs at times. Like especially if you're still writing songs, you're attached to these old songs. The audience is probably attached to those songs to some degree, but you got to make room for newer songs as well. I understand completely. It kind of got to fill that beginning, and over the years we've crafted an intro to the set, like the first 3 songs, and we have an ending that's definitely key too. But we've also filled in, like you were talking about, the center point, and had a couple milestones, so to speak, in the set. Right? Not every song's going to be out of the park. You try to make that work. Some songs that will work, but not everybody may get them, in a sense. It's the way they're presented. That's because if you think about it, some of the biggest hits that ever have happened, when you single them out and you really go through them, you go, man, I don't understand why that was such a hit. What was the thing? Sometimes, but it was crafted a certain way. Maybe it was how it was presented or something. And the same thing works with live sets. A song can sound better depending on the song that came before and the song that comes after, because it keeps the intensity going. And you're just filling it in. And we've experimented with that. Like I said, there were some songs. We had some band members in the band that said, why don't you do that song? It's like, well, we did do that song. We did it for a number of shows, and it just didn't work. Oh, maybe you didn't give it enough time. It's like, no, listen, I'm telling you, we loved the song ourselves. That's why we worked it into the set, because you know it, and anybody that has an array of songs, it takes a while to bring a song into the set. Like, you actually have to work it. It has to be as tight as the rest of the set that you've already been playing. Otherwise, and I know that firsthand, I've even talked to you about it, you're bringing in a new song and you're butchering it. You're butchering it better than anybody else could possibly butcher it, but you're trying to work it into the set, and you're like, you have these great, say, 3 or 4 songs, then you put the new song in, and it's a train wreck, and then you go to the next song, and you're playing it like, and me thinking about what the audience is thinking, it's like, what's the matter with these guys? They were just hitting it, then they lost it. Like, they literally lost their minds for 3 minutes, and then they got it back again. Well, it happens. It happens.
Yeah, it does.
You're working it out. But to me, I think that however you decide to craft your set list, and again, it has to work well for the band, too. It can't just be audience serving. I know, like, the customer's always right type of thing. But if you're not enjoying the way it's going, the audience will pick up on that, too. And no matter what you do or where you put the song, it's not going to make a difference. But if you're enjoying it, your singer's able to kind of, like, lead the stampede, right? Like, kind of lead the charge, so to speak. The audience could get into it. If the song has a chant to it, if it has a real good catchy melody, whatever. But the bottom line is however you craft it, I think the song should be, they should have a punch. They should deliver a certain feeling. It doesn't even matter what you say. It's not even a message, unless that's the shtick that you're having these powerful messages that you want the audience to get. But I think most audience members, especially if they don't know you, which in our case is very common, you're on tour, you're with another band or whatever, most of the audience probably never heard your stuff. Just that small percentage looks up on Spotify and says, oh, these are the bands coming, let me check them out real quick. But that's far and few between, so it's new to everybody. So you're trying to strike some emotional chord with them so they could latch on, because they're not going. Most people aren't going to catch what you're saying, with the words that you're singing, or if you're having some kind of little banter in between songs, depending on the length of your set, you may not have a lot of time, you may have very little. So you got to hit them. I've always talked about you got to hit them, and you got to hit them hard, and you leave them hanging a little bit at the end. And like you said, you can tell when the crowd is starting to disengage. It happens, especially if you're doing longer sets. I've been contracted to do 2-hour sets. Let me tell you something. 2-hour sets with an original band, all original music, in a venue or with an audience that's not 100% aware of you is very difficult to do.
Yes.
It's very difficult to do. I used to hate 30-minute sets because it took too much effort to get set up all day, all this stuff for 30 minutes. And someone even told me prior to the summer, it just doesn't seem worth it. I get what they're saying. But I've learned to love them because it's that 30-minute set that can keep the audience engaged. It takes them about the first 3-4 songs to really lock into you. By the time they lock into you, it's over. 40-minute set, yeah, maybe. There is that, at that 35-minute lull, there could be a bit of an issue if you hit them with the wrong song.
That sweet spot is like anywhere from like 30 to 45. Like, if you're doing 30 to 45, you're kind of running into, you could be skating on thin ice. It's a very gray area.
Totally agree.
And, it's funny, too, because I've seen cover bands. And this happens, too. I've seen cover bands that do, an hour set, 90-minute set, whatever. And they hit that 40, 45, man, and they start to lose people, too. And then they got to come back with a big one, right? Like, they got to come back, with a big popular one, whatever tribute band you're looking for, or cover band. I'm not even talking about, like, tribute bands. I'm talking about, like, legit, just cover bands that's playing all kinds of stuff from the radio. And, then you got to hit them with a big hit, right? And then you could get them back. Wedding bands, same thing, right? Once people are on the dance floor, now you got to keep them dancing. Even in that, like, you kind of know what, especially in a wedding band, because they're legit, like, super professionals. Once you got them on the dance floor, what songs keep them on the dance floor. You've been doing it long enough to know. Same thing with indie artists. We know what keeps people interested, like we do. That 30, 35, 40, 45, that could be a gray area to be in. That's thin ice right there, buddy.
Absolutely, and that's why it's so important to really craft that set list as best you can. Speaking of the cover band, tribute band, the thing about the tribute band, at least in my opinion, is if you're a true tribute band, that means you're doing one particular artist or band and you're covering their catalog. Now, usually, if you're doing a tribute band, it's usually a a band that's relatively popular. Like, you're not picking some obscure band that maybe never had any hit, even though I'm sure that they're out there. But you're picking, like, say, like a lot of these Led Zeppelin bands, right? These tribute bands. You pretty much know that the audience that's there are Led Zeppelin fans, and they're well aware of all their songs. So how you craft your set still is a definite key point, but you're going to run a better chance of them enjoying the entire show. A lot of the Pink Floyd or Led Zeppelin bands, they also then start putting a stage set together and a stage show and all. Cover bands, on the other hand, everybody wants to do other songs that may not be as popular or may not be what is called for that venue, for that particular audience, or work well with the other sets. Now, I've seen some bands, especially within the metal genre, they'll do 2 or 3 bands types of music. Like, you'll do AC/DC, Motley Crue, and maybe Judas Priest, and that's all the songs you do. Then you have other guys that are doing an array of stuff. And again, that's hit or miss too, because you don't know. You may think that doing a Judas Priest song is going to work, and it may, but maybe not with this crowd. They may like more of the Van Halen stuff.
Right.
You don't know. You just don't know. And I've seen it. I've seen it too. Like, I'll stick with saying even a bad cover band gets a pretty good response, because I've seen some that I'm like, oh my God, I'm baffled. But the crowd
it's just about people knowing those songs.
Right. Yeah. And I think that in their head, they're actually hearing the real thing.
Right.
But if it's not strung together right, it could still throw people off, especially if they don't like that artist. I don't like that band. I'm not whatever.
It's funny, Mick. 2 trains of thought here. My wife is a huge Guns N' Roses fan. Like, huge Guns N' Roses. Like, top 3 of her favorite bands of all time. And when we went to see them twice in the past 2 or 3 years, they played like 3 hours. And even with that, you're like, okay. Like, because Slash does like a 20-minute guitar solo with Duff and the drummer. And you're like, okay. Like, this, and listen, I respect them, because 3 hours, that's a long time. Well, and that's a whole tour. That's not just one night. Like, it's a whole tour. And, you got to pay good money to see it. And I respect that, too, because they give you every dollar worth. But in the middle of the set, you can kind of see people, like, fading out. You know what I mean? Because 3, that's a long time. And you're doing deep cuts, and you're doing, like, cover songs that nobody really knows unless, you're true blue Guns N' Roses person. And if you look at their set list, like, you can find it online, you go, like, what are all these songs? Like, it's crazy. On the other end of that, and I'm not going to give any names away, I saw a friend of mine, friends, I should say, I saw their tribute band, I guess over the summer, maybe early this summer. They are a tribute band of a big popular heavy metal band that has a lot of really long songs. And they packed house, and I think they played 2 sets. Well, the second set was constructed of all the longest songs by the artist. Well, by the 3rd song, people were tuning out, because their songs are already long, and now you're playing all the long songs in one set, and you're losing. They're dropping like flies, bro. This place was packed. By the end of that set, the place was empty, and you start to lose people, man. And that's they did all the big ones in the beginning set, which I get, because you hope your thought process is, let's try to keep them. But you just, you lost them in the second set, and I go, oh my God, like what? Like, why would you construct your second set like that? Like, split that stuff up, man, because everybody's here to hear these songs. So, like you said, because they're hearing the original act, which I never really even thought of, but they're hearing the original song in their own head. They're just seeing another band doing it, right? So, and that's a big thing to me too. I go, man, like, when you're playing like you guys do, sometimes you're playing more than one set. Like, you got to think. You have to think. Like, you really need to think about what you're about to do. I don't know if there's a right or wrong way, because you never know. People are different. Places are different. Nights are different. That one set may work one place and not another. But it's definitely something you should consider, is in, looking at that, especially when you do more than one sets. If you are a band like you guys, where you can do more than one set.
You are listening to the Cosmick Voice with your hosts, Chris Natalini and Mick Michaels.
So, question for you, since we're talking about sets, and so when you guys were or have played long sets in the past, more than one, what is your thought process of constructing the one or two later sets in the night?
Bands that are doing cover type of things like wedding bands or those type of bands, this is more common for them, right? But there's such an endless catalog to choose from. When you're doing it with original music, sooner or later you're going to have to pop a song in that's more of like would be considered a deeper cut, and you try to put that in the later sets, but you nestle it somewhere in. One night we actually were brought in and we did three sets with a break in between each. So what we did is we took the tried and true set and we broke it up so that the songs appeared throughout all three sets. No repeats. Just say one of our songs is On the Hunt, it's a chanting song, and it's 3/4 of the way through our whatever set we do, but it's always part of it. It's about that 3/4 of the way through.
Right.
Well, we didn't put it in the first set. So if somebody was just coming to say, oh, I got to see the song, we at least kept them around for the second set. Anybody who's staying for that third set, you're usually getting into the late hours. At that point, you can kind of get away with maybe throwing in a couple things here or there, but we still look at it like you were talking, like we started out the podcast with. You got to have that strong intro song, and you got to have that good ending song.
Yeah.
But, and we've learned this along the way, you got to have those points in between. If you did 10 songs, and they remember your first two and your last song, and that's it, okay, that's okay. But you want them to take something from the middle, too. So we've created that point where, right at that 3/4 mark, we hit them with On the Hunt. You got to craft it like that. You brought up a point talking about the tribute band. I was going to cover it, but I didn't look down at my list because I forgot. But the length of songs really do play a key role in audience retention. Now, they may be standing there, but their mind's already someplace else. They've disengaged. So even though they're standing there, that's okay. I mean, because it looks good in a picture. But for that audience to band interaction, it starts to disappear, right? So I could see your first song's maybe a little longer of a song, but you can't have your second, third, and fourth song just as long or longer. And I've seen that with bands. Like, if you only have a 30-minute set, this is my opinion now. I did one set just a couple months back with a national. We got a 25-minute set. That was it. And we were told it's a hard start and a hard end. That means if you go over 10 seconds, 20 seconds, they were pulling the plug right there.
Right.
So you had to watch your time. Let me tell you something. You know how fast 30 minutes goes fast. 25 is like...
25 goes faster,
yeah, you know, of course. But you literally blink and it's over. You're not even settled in. Your guitar hasn't even settled into the tuning yet.
Yeah.
That's, you know... Yep. So if you're only doing a 30-minute set, and listen, if you're working with nationals, regionals, internationals, 30-minute set, that's normal. I'm sorry, it's normal. You play at the Whiskey, it's 30-minute set.
Yep.
Unless you're headlining. Yep. You know, any of the big places, 30-minute set. It's with the theater, so on and so forth. It's very crucial what you do in that 30 minutes. And that's why I said you hit them hard, you hit them fast. And me, I look at it like you get as many songs in as you can in them 30 minutes.
Yep,
listen,
definitely.
you want to have 5-10-minute songs, that's great. But when you're going to start playing them live, especially if you're in an array of bands, you need to shorten them up. You need to hit them hard, hit them fast, do as many songs. Leave them with as much stuff as you possibly can. Take their breath away. Dilly-dallying in between songs. And believe me, I got to keep the reels going. If you're ever watching me on stage with my singer, I'm calling to him, all right, let's go. Come on, hurry up, because he'll go down a route. All of a sudden, he's in discussions with people, and he's sitting down having drinks with them. Yeah. We're just standing up there waiting. He's a great guy, but man, what's that, squirrel? Is that a squirrel over there? Oh, you know, that's right, we're playing? That's exactly where it's at. If you ever watch that, and I've actually posted it, if you ever watch the Three Stooges when they're in court, you know, disorderly court or whatever it was called, you know, take your hat off, put your right hand up, you know, and then he puts his hat back on, puts his other hand up, puts it on the cane, back and forth, up and down. I go, that's like working with my singer. 100%. You know what I mean? I love it. I love him. But man, sometimes when you got 30 minutes, it's the worst
You got to
thing.
push that 30. Yeah, you got to push that 30 minutes.
In the 90s, I played 13-minute songs, 15-minute songs, 8-minute songs, you know. The attention span. After 3 minutes, people are gone. People are gone. This is why guys like the Ramones, they were doing 2-minute sons. Yeah, they may have all sounded the same, but it kept people going. It kept, you know what I mean? It kept them going. It's punch, 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 punch. Deep breath. Okay, here comes another one. Punch, punch. It's just like a ride, right? It's like an amusement park ride, and that's the way I've crafted the set. I've crafted songs. It's like being on a roller coaster. It can't be all the same. You want to give some highs and lows, but like I said earlier, you want to strike a chord emotionally with the audience, and the music does that. And song order can have a huge impact, which kind of goes, you know, in hand when you're putting together an album. And I know a lot of people don't even, I've talked to artists, they don't even care about it. They don't even think about it. Like they just, you know, okay, I did this song's done. They put them in the order that they finished them or the studio gave them to them. When I'm writing the songs for the album and I'm, you know, and I hear them, I'm like, this song rolls into this song, then rolls into, like there's an order to it. You know it. You've done the same thing. To me,
I've always done it.
Yeah, that's a huge crafting thing.
It is.
And sometimes that could work live too. I mean, look at it. There's been songs that are on the album that guys have taken and put in the set just like that because they know they work.
Listen, there's been many times where my band Seeds has played our last record in its entirety in a row, just like the record, because why not? It works. You might as well do it.
I agree. Yeah. So the way I look at it, if you're going to spend the time, the effort, the energy, this passion to craft a good song, then record it. Now remember, in some cases, you're putting money out for this. You put it down to some media form, you release it, you're doing all this distribution and stuff, and then you're just going to throw a set list together? That's crazy. Now, to add to it, to say that I've never done just a off-the-cuff set list would be a lie, because we have done it. But here's the thing. We still start the set out with the tried and true. The first 3 songs, we hit them. And then we loosey-goosey it. You may know this about the venue's kind of laid back, the audience is laid back. We have plenty of time to kill.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They want a little bit of that interaction. And then you see how the crowd goes. And like you were saying earlier, we've been fortunate enough that we have a good body of work that we can curtail a set if it's a lighter night, if we're playing with lighter bands. Right?
Yes,
if we're starting to play with heavier bands. Now listen, there's only so heavy we can get because of the type of band we are. But we've played with you guys, and you guys are super heavy. We played with your former band, which is super heavy. And we have some songs that can definitely mesh in with that. And we've thrown in some of our popular songs, like On the Hunt, that the crowd goes crazy for, because we bookend them with these heavier songs for us.
Yes.
And it just works. Yes. And again, remember, what's heavy on an album is sometimes heavier live.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're like, oh my
100%.
God, you know, this is
100%.
definitely working this way. And as songs evolve, like we were talking about earlier, you can tweak them, you can pump them up. I know our drummer, Mad T, sometimes it's more double bass because the song and the audience, the energy is calling for it. Sometimes it's off the cuff stuff. So to me, set list is huge, man, because that's what draws. Let's get back down to the business of it. That's what draws people to the merch table afterwards. They're rushing over and going, I need to hear those songs. Can I, or I got to get a shirt or whatever. And that's why the merch table is so important. I know this is slightly off topic, but why the merch table is so important to an indie in the trench band that's on the road, because that's where the connections are further solidified. They get to come over, they get to talk to you, they get to take a piece of you home, ask some questions, whatever. They put like a handshake to the face to the music. And I mean, it's so important. So, but what's doing that? The set list, because that's what they're hearing from you the very first time.
Yep.
So to me, it's very important. It's just as important as everything else. I mean, really, you're going to hear throughout this season and probably all the other past seasons that, I mean, nothing is not important, right? Except for maybe the BS that you have to deal with. I mean, is it important? Yeah, you just avoid it. Be aware of it enough so you can avoid it. But everything that you do as an artist, as a band, is super important, because at the end of the day, it reflects on your brand. It reflects on you. It's inspirational. a lot of what we do, a lot of what the guys do is inspiring to me. I mean, it's like, oh man, they're doing this, let me do this. I see another band doing it. That's like, oh man, that's amazing. Let me do that. Let me do it how it fits for us, but that's so forward thinking, that kind of stuff. I know people will say, like, here we go with Kiss again, but that Kiss, like, oh, they were never really that great of a band, that's why they threw in all this other stuff. Well, I guess so. I don't know. I mean, were they Rush? No. Were they Queensryche? No. Judas Priest? No. But man, for what Kiss has done, I get jacked up with Kiss. And I've seen them, I can't tell you how many times. And every song you connect with, if you're a Kiss fan, and then the other stuff just enhances it. Why not? They, like they said, they just, it's a 3-ring circus that they're giving you everything. And if you're there because you want to hear, some master on guitar or whatever the case may be, well, then go to a jazz show. To me, like, real musicians and they play. But you want to see a good rock and roll show with music that you can sing along to. It's got good hooks and it's a visual spectacle as well. Then Kiss is the show to go see. That's my opinion.
I agree. And with a band like Kiss, exactly what set list you're going to get. You may hope that they play something else, but Paul Stanley's already come out and said, no, listen, these are the songs people want to hear, and these are the songs that we're going to do.
Detroit Rock City, to me, that is the ultimate in opening up set songs. And I'm not even sure if that was something that they originally really did, and I don't think that it was. What Kiss Alive was being recorded, weren't they actually starting with I Stole Your Love?
I think so.
Right?
That sounds familiar. Yeah. Yes.
But that Detroit Rock City thing that they put on that literally changed.
You can't.
I know as a young person and as someone who was moving towards wanting to be, a rock star as a kid, like you wanted to open up a show with Detroit Rock City.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Like, who does not want to finish their show with confetti and balloons flying all over the place? I mean,
I know I do.
Yeah, really. I may have told this story once. I played a outside festival, and we were on at night, much later in the night, before the final headline band. It was on the edge of New York, almost close to Canada, in some mountain region thing. It was kind of crazy, actually. Not that this was set up or they didn't go, oh, Corners of Sanctuary is playing, so we gotta, do this. Nah, it was not that. It just so happens that somebody was doing it. But we're playing our set, and it was close to the end, and all of a sudden, someone starts firing off all this fireworks, and it's high, and it was like, oh my God, I got my Kiss show. That's it. I mean, let me tell you something. To look up while you're playing and the stuff's exploding, it was amazing. And like I said, it wasn't planned. It wasn't like, somebody says, oh, a Corner Sanctuary's here, let's do this now. We didn't work it out. It was just, we got lucky. Somebody
came in that way.
Somebody says, hey, now's the time. They were probably so drunk they probably accidentally lit them off. Whatever. They were probably supposed to be for the end. Who knows? But it was just so cool. So that may not have anything to do with the set list, but actually maybe it does. It's how people are connecting emotionally to that song. Now that you have this visual piece, and I realize that most of us, the indie and the trench bands, we don't have that luxury. We have whatever the house lighting is, and if the guy hasn't fallen asleep during your set. I've played sets where we were practically in the dark for 30 minutes, and I've played sets where they never shut the lights down. You know what I mean? Or the lights came on halfway. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
and all of a sudden, it's like, there's no ambiance, and you're like, what's wrong up here? I don't understand. I've had the sound person has fallen asleep, but he also is supposed to operate the smoke machine. We didn't get any smoke. It's just crazy. You just never know, right? But that may be part of the reason why people connect with songs, too, especially on the national level, because they have this visual to the song. It enhances the song even more so. So, crafting a good set list and then something that goes around it. Back in our day, bands would do synchronized moves. I know they still kind of do it today. They have the dancing. They had the spinning of the guitars and all that kind of stuff. And it was kind of choreographed to some. So there was some visual. A lot of the guys started that in the clubs because they couldn't do risers, explosions and stuff like that. So who knows? I don't know. So it's all part of it, man. Like I said, everything we do as an artist is important. So we can't take any of that for granted. We can't take it lightly because it is an extension of who we are, what we do. And at the end of the day, it's a mark on our brand, good, bad, or indifferent.
Connections, right? We always talk about making connections, and sometimes that set list can make that connection.
Absolutely. Like I said, it may be strong enough to get somebody over to the table. And they're not even sure what they want to get, but they want to get something. Yeah, I don't even know what do you guys recommend? Because I want to, just one of our last shows that we did, the guy came over and he goes, you know, what's a good representation of what I heard tonight? Because without really knowing us,
right,
he liked, you know, so over the years, we've actually put 2 best of CDs together. One has like 16 songs, the other one has like 20 songs. Some of them have some of the same songs, but the newer one has updated versions of them. You know, hey, here's one, here's something. This gives you a good cross-reference of the band's 13-year career. A lot of the pretty much everything you heard in that set will be on one of these CDs.
Will be on one of the,
yeah.
Yep.
We did that specifically for the merch table. Like, people are like, you know, I know that album, but then this song's on this album. So we originally started out with a CD that just basically had the set that we played that night. But then after a while, I said, hey, you know, why don't we do a best of? And it helps. It really does help. I met bands that were recording their set every night live and then burned CDs right there from it and said, this is the CD. You know, they just put a Sharpie on it, put the date, it's $5. That's it.
Yeah.
They got some stickers, you know, some free stickers to throw in, and people were excited about it. I mean, I thought that was a fantastic idea.
It's a great idea.
Yeah.
It's a great idea. It's a great idea.
You have to carry around little extra equipment, but
right,
you know what I mean? And listen,
but if it's worth it.
Yeah, if it's worth it. Yep. I figured that, you know, once you got the system, it worked pretty easily for you.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. What do you think? You got anything else you want to add?
You know, I think set lists are super important, and I've realized how important they are as I've gotten older and more experienced. I think set lists is one of those things that bands should be more aware of.
I totally agree. I think it's something that is key. It should be a discussion, a regular topic for a band, especially if you're adding new music at least yearly or even, you know, quarterly. It depends on how much, you know, music that you're actually producing. But yeah, something to think about. Something to think about. If you like that episode, check out some of our other episodes at www.thecosmicvoice.com. Step into the Cosmic Verse. You'll never know what you'll find. You may never know what you'll find in Chris's beard either, but give it a shot. Thanks so much for listening. This is the Cosmic Voice. Be sure to check us out at thecosmicvoice.com. Like and follow us on Facebook at The Cosmic Voice. You can find The Cosmic Voice everywhere you listen to online podcasts, like Deezer, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, Stitcher, and so many more.
All right, folks, that's going to do it for us. If you're hearing this message, you've listened to the entire episode. And for that, Mick and I would like to thank you from the bottom of our hearts. And we hope you enjoyed this new episode. And if you did, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Also, feel free to let us know what topics you'd like to see covered in future episodes of The Cosmic Voice. And you can get in touch with us through thecosmicvoice.com and, of course, all of the Cosmic Voice social medias. Take care and be safe.
You're listening to The Cosmic Voice. Music, talk, and nothing but business.